So here I am on the internet, just doing my research on the plot and character development present in these beautiful works of art, and after spending several hours analyzing Doujin protagonists, I began realizing that I too am very similar to them. Not in the sense that I get coochie or that I'm a chick magnet, but more that I'm introverted, my life is as generic as can be, and I'm not exactly the most attractive male. Don't get me wrong, some of these boys are pretty attractive, but they aren't attractive enough to override their lack of personality with solely their looks. And I began to wonder, how do these low-life protagonists acquire coochie when I'm out here struggling to even initiate contact with the female gender? It just doesn't make sense. So I did more research and I think I came up with some logical conclusions. One of the most distinct features present in Doujin protagonists is the lack of eyes. Many studios claim that it's for the viewer to better roleplay as the protag, but I'm gonna have to call BS on that. You see, the real reason is that anime eyes are surprisingly hard to animate, and since most of the budget goes into the thrust action, it makes sense that the male eyes are the first details to go. Believe it or not, having the eyes hidden is ultimately a good thing for these protagonists. Shakespeare once said that the eyes are the windows of the soul, and by extension, the soul itself. If the girl can't see your eyes, then it stands to reason that she can't see your soul either. Your eyes are the most identifiable part of your face. This is why in those anonymous photos, all you see blacked out are the eyes. Since Doujin protagonists block out their eyes with their hair, girls are unable to truly connect to the protagonist at an emotional level. This sort of detachment makes it really easy for the girls to look past the shallow personality of the male and focus more on that magnum dong that he carries between his legs. By covering their eyes with their hair, Doujin protagonists are able to sidestep their lack of personality and replace an emotional connection with something a little bit more physical. But it's not just the dudes who put in all the work here. If long hair was all it took for me to smash, then I would have done it ages ago. There has to be something fundamentally different in the Doujin world than our world that lets the protagonist acquire coochie. And the most noticeable difference is once again in the eyes. Where males have no visible eyes, females have comically large eyes, and these big eyes are what separates their reality from ours. A lot of Doujin girls, and anime girls in general, tend to be portrayed with large eyes. This is supposed to help the audience connect with them more emotionally, getting back to the whole the eyes are the windows of the soul thing. But if in their reality they have eyes that are physically that large, then those large female eyes would help the male in obtaining the cooch. Here's how. Typically, large-eyed anime girls are also paired with having massive pupils. Since the pupils are the part of the eye that captures light, it makes sense to say that these girls have a potentially larger field of vision. From here, it can go three ways. Since there is a bigger opening for light to enter, the eye needs to be deeper in order to get the proper focal length to concentrate all of that light into one point. If the eyes are too shallow, the light rays can't focus onto a single point, and the result is a blurry image. Therefore, if the eyes are too small or too shallow, then all Doujin girls see is a giant blurry image. This benefits the Doujin protagonist because it doesn't matter if he's ugly. All he needs is a decent voice and a nice, girthy schlong. If these girls have an appropriately sized eyeball with the right depth and size for clear image processing, then there's the question of processing power. With more light entering, the resulting image would be higher resolution. With a higher resolution image, the occipital lobe of the brain needs to be larger in order to process that image. However, since these girls use a majority of their head just for their eyeballs, I don't think their brains have the size and processing power needed for such a high resolution image. If the eyes are large enough to properly form an image, but the occipital lobe is small as a consequence of big eyes, then Doujin girls would experience vision loss, color distortion, lack of spatial recognition, and more. This can help Doujin protagonists much in the same way as before. The girl can't process much of what's going on around her, so once again, it doesn't matter if he's ugly. All he needs is a halfway soothing voice and a nice, bulky dong. In the last scenario, where the eye is large enough for proper image focusing, and by some miracle, there is enough room in the head for an adequately sized occipital lobe, then the Doujin girl has a larger field of vision with higher resolution. And believe it or not, this also works out for Doujin protagonists. Think about it. With a larger field of vision, a smaller percentage of that vision is of the dude. This means that she sees less of him and more of what's around him. Once again, it doesn't really matter if he's ugly. All he needs is a halfway decent peripheral background and a nice, juicy meat stick. Therefore, the combination of Doujin males having hair over their eyes and Doujin females having larger eyes allows for Doujin protagonists to acquire the coochie, provided that their thrust game is on point. Given all of this information, can someone like me be like them? Is it possible for someone like me, who is introverted, generic, and somewhat pleasing to the eye, to obtain the cooch? Can I follow the steps that the Giga Chads of the Doujin world lead? The short answer is unfortunately no. Despite my best efforts to manipulate the female psyche by covering my eyes with my hair, our world lacks the anatomy required for females to have large anime eyes. Only half of the equation works, so it seems like I'm all out of luck in getting it on with a female. It is with great sorrow that I conclude this video with such a somber tone. Perhaps one day there will be a point where we weebs can rise up and procure some coochie for ourselves. But for now, we shall wait our turn and wrap ourselves in the warmth that our waifu body pillows provide us, knowing deep down that our waifus will never reject us.